All right. So let's get to today's article, which I'm not sure if I'm going to get any Schadenfreude from this, but it's definitely a lesson to those of you who are in the camp of get rid of all illegals and all illegals are bad and whatever the heck, or just that, oh, we want people to come here the right way. So, for those of you who like to eat, which I assume should be everybody, this is the article. U.S. farm groups want Trump to spare their workers from deportation. In other words, they employ undocumented workers. And they do that on purpose. All right. U.S. farm industry groups want President-elect Donald Trump to spare their sector from his promise of mass deportations, which could upend a food supply chain heavily dependent on immigrants in the United States illegally. Because they can pay them slave wages, if at all. So, and let's face it, because that's the beauty of this. They get to pay them slave wages, and let's face it, what American citizen would want that job? So, anyway, moving on. So far, Trump officials have not commented to any exemptions. Exemptions. According to interviews with farm and worker groups and Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan. Of course not, because the whole Trump and his sycophants are not smart enough to understand what this will do to the economy. They just think illegal, undocumented people bad across the board because, well, first off, they think that the only undocumented people in this country are brown, possibly black, but, they're not white, so what's the problem, right? Yes, this is not just xenophobia, but out-and-out racism. Nearly half of the nation's approximately 2 million farm workers lack legal status, according to the Departments of Labor and Agriculture, as well as many dairy and meatpacking workers. Trump, a Republican, vowed to deport millions of immigrants in the U.S. illegally as part of his campaign to win back the White House, a logistically challenging undertaking that critics say could split apart families and disrupt U.S. businesses. And you would think that the disrupting U.S. businesses would actually get Trump to stand up and listen, but obviously hatred overrides any sense of you're screwing the people you claim that you want to help. And by that I mean the millionaires, the billionaires. So Holman has said immigration enforcement will focus on criminals and people with final deportation orders, but that no immigrant in the U.S. illegally will be exempt. He told Fox News on November 11th that enforcement against businesses would have to happen, but has not said whether the agricultural sector would be targeted. We've got a lot on our plate, Homan said in a phone interview this month. Mass removal of farm workers would shock the food supply chain and drive consumer grocery prices higher, said David Ortega, a professor of food economics and policy at Michigan State University. So, if you thought that your eggs were going to go down in price, No. If you thought your milk was going to go down in price, no. And, most people, talked about tariffs being bad for the economy. But, yeah, I mentioned this many times on my channel. The people who are doing the fruit picking are the ones who would be deported. So, and there would be nobody to fill those jobs. We've already seen the results of that. So, I'm not sure why this should come as a surprise to anyone. They're filling critical roles that many U.S.-born workers are either unable or unwilling to perform, Ortega said. Unable? I'm pretty sure you could find someone in the U.S. that would be able to do these jobs. These are not jobs that require skills that you can't learn in the U.S. or skills that only people from Central and South America possess. I'm not aware of anything in the food industry that matches that description. Unwilling? 100%. No U.S. citizen would be willing to even consider a job like that. So, yeah. Farm groups and Republican allies are encouraged by the incoming administration's stated focus on criminals. Right, because everything that Donald Trump says is the truth. That's why he tells everything to everybody. Instead of, and then you just have to pick and choose which one you think he means. Dave Puglia, president and CEO of Western Growers, which represents produce farmers, said the group supports that approach and is concerned about impacts to the farm sector if a deportation plan was targeted at farm workers. Okay, it's wonderful that they say that they're only targeting criminals. The problem is that we know better. We know that this is an administration who's targeting legal immigration. They're going to try to curb legal immigration. So, why do you think that they're only concerned about criminals if they don't even want legal immigration? So, yeah, even though he says only criminals, in his mind, in Trump's mind, and I'm sure in the minds of the other horrible people like Stephen Miller, undocumented workers, specifically brown people, and criminals just go hand in hand. They just, he truly thinks that, he did say in his 2016 campaign that some, I'm sure, are good people. Simply to try to save himself from being called a racist, which we already know he is. So it doesn't surprise me that this is a problem. All right. Trump transition spokesperson Caroline Leavitt did not directly address the farmers' concerns in a statement to Reuters. The American people re-elected President Trump by a resounding margin, giving him a mandate to implement the promises he made on the campaign trail, like deporting migrant criminals and restoring our economic greatness, Leavitt said. He will deliver. And that should tell you all you need to know. First off, no, there was not a resounding mandate. There was not a resounding margin. In the popular vote. And it looks that way if you look at the Electoral College, but that's not how landslides work. And the fact that they said migrant criminals. The fact that they went from undocumented immigrants the so-called illegal immigrants to now migrants who are legal should tell you everything. Because they are not interested in just going after criminals. They are going after everyone they consider to be here illegally. Because we already saw in the case of Haitian migrants, they don't see the program that they're here under as being legal. So, yeah. They consider criminals to be the fact that you're in this country as an undocumented worker. That to them is enough to prove criminality, not just that they committed a crime while here. I mean, if that were the case, we already do that. I mean, yes, our system is broken because they can somehow manage to get back. But the fact is, we do deport criminals. That is not something new. Okay, he will deliver. I'm sure he will. To the U.S.'s detriment, Trump announced on Saturday that he would nominate Brooke Rollins, who chaired the White House Domestic Policy Council during his first term, to become Agriculture Secretary. Agriculture and related industries contributed $1.5 trillion to the U.S. gross domestic product, or 5.6% in 2023, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. In his first administration, Trump promised the farm sector that his deportation effort would not target food sector workers, though the administration did not conduct raids at some agricultural work sites, including poultry processing plants in Mississippi and produce processing facilities in Nebraska. So, are you saying he lied? Shocking. U.S. Representative John Duarte, a Republican and fourth-generation farmer in California's Central Valley, said farms in the area depend on immigrants in the U.S. illegally and that the U.S. small towns would collapse if those workers were deported. Wait a minute. You're a Republican who I would guess are one of those who are kissing Trump's ass, but yet you know how much we need the workers who are here undocumented. Okay, that checks out. Duarte's congressional seat is one of a handful of close races where a winner has yet to be declared. Great. Duarte said the Trump administration should pledge that immigrant workers in the country for 5 years or longer with no criminal record will not be targeted and look at avenues to permanent legal status. Have you not been paying even the slightest bit of attention here? They are not interested in that. Hell, they are probably looking to see how they can kick out legal immigrants that they don't want around. I'm not sure where you get this idea that they will think that they will consider something like that. I would like to hear more clearly expressed that these families will not be targeted, he said. Again, you're foolish if you think that that's going to happen. Farmers have a legal option for hiring labor with the H-2A visa program, which allows employers to bring in an unlimited number of seasonal workers if they can show there are not enough U.S. workers willing, qualified, and able to do the job. The program has grown over time with 378,000 H-2A positions certified by the Labor Department in 2023, 3 times more than in 2014, according to the agency data. But that figure is only about 20% of the nation's farm workers, according to the USDA. Many farmers say they cannot afford the visa's wage and housing requirements. Others have year-round labor needs that rule out the seasonal visas. Farmers and workers would benefit from expanding legal pathways for agricultural laborers, said John Walt Boatwright, Director of Government Affairs at the American Farm Bureau Federation, a farmer lobby group. We need the certainty, reliability, and affordability of a workforce program and programs that are going to allow us to continue to deliver food from the farm to the table, said John Hawley, Director of Government Relations at the International Fresh Produce Association, which represents produce farmers. For decades, farm and worker groups have attempted to pass immigration reform that would enable more agricultural workers to stay in the U.S., but the legislation has failed so far. The risk of enforcement against farms is likely low because of the necessity of the workers, said Leon Fresco, an immigration attorney at Holland and Knight. You're assuming that the people in charge are rational and competent. There are some very significant business interests that obviously want agricultural labor and need it, he said. But for farm workers, the fear of enforcement can create chronic stress, said Mary Jo Dudley, director of the Cornell Farm Worker Program, which is training workers to know their rights if confronted by immigration officials. If there are, again, raids on meatpacking plants, immigration enforcement should take precautions to avoid detaining workers in the country illegally, said Mark Perron, International President of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, which represents some meatpacking workers. Again, I'm not entirely sure that the Trump administration would care if they're here legally. The whole point is to get rid of brown people. So, what does it matter if they're here legally? Edgar Franks, a former farm worker and political director at Familias Unidas por la Justicia, there we go, got it out, a worker union in Washington state, said the group is seeing new energy from workers to organize. The anxiety and fear is real, but if we're together, there's a better chance for us to fight back, he said. So no Schadenfreude today. As far as we know, these people voted for Kamala Harris, but we don't know. Either way. I'm of two minds. Obviously, I don't want anyone deported. But at the same time, to see the looks on all these dipshits' faces when they see that the person they voted for is actually causing a food crisis and prices going up would be satisfactory if I wasn't in the same boat. So, yeah. I want the Schadenfreude, but I'm too close to get the Schadenfreude satisfaction. But anyway, that is all I have for this article. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.